Hi, I'm Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
We're not from Memphis, but we love it.
Welcome to Memphis Type History, the podcast. Erica, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rebecca. Thanks.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
I know. Last time we did this, it was for the book.
Yeah.
And we learned about the Lorraine Motel.
Mm-hmm.
Because you used to work near there.
Yes. Across the street, pretty much.
Yeah, which is now changed.
Yeah.
It was American Apparel, and it's not there anymore.
Now it's an escape room.
It's an escape room.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
I'm just making art.
You're teaching art.
I'm teaching art, yes, at a private school out east to pre-K and K.
That's lovely.
So that's wild.
Yes.
Those kids are crazy, but in a good way. And then I teach drum lessons too. And then I'm doing private art tutoring as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Very nice. You have a website people can find you
I'm
at?
working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can people contact you?
You can find me on Instagram.
Instagram.
So at Tacos Treasures, tacos with a K.
Takos.
Yes. And just Erica S. Qualy. Or you can stalk me on Facebook. Yeah. I might not accept your friend request though. I'm sorry.
But I think you can still stalk.
You can stalk. Yeah.
Okay. We gather you are an artist, and that brings us to the topic of today,
Yes.
which is zines. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, you are.
Yes. Okay. And the reason why, just so you know, this all happened because when we had that initial interview for that spot in the book, you gave me one of your personal zines.
Yes.
And that was maybe the second I had ever received of a zine. So my introduction of these was in Memphis.
Okay.
I thought they're cool and I liked them, and I wondered where I could get them and who's making them, why are people making them.
Right.
And so I think that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
I think we should just start with basically what is a zine. For those who don't know,
Okay.
what can you tell us?
So a zine is basically a do-it-yourself publication that anyone can do. Usually it's like just 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, folded up and stapled, and you just put whatever content you want to put in there.
Okay.
Back in the day, it was like cut and paste, but now people kind of do, Photoshop stuff, and I don't know. I'm kind of a purist, so I'm like, you should be cutting and pasting.
Yeah.
This should be collage material.
And you photocopy it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so go to Kinko's or wherever.
What I've seen is black and white. Does that make a difference?
Mostly people do print in black and white just because it's cheaper, it's easier. I mean, I do color copies of my zine Punks and Their Cats, and I make like 7 cents profit.
Oh, that's right, because
So-
it is the cost.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That makes sense.
But if you can find a free place to print, do it. Do it now.
Because there's nothing against the color, it's just the
Right.
cost.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And the 8.5 by 11, just because it's easily accessible.
Yeah.
And you can create your own. What are your favorite materials to do? Is it like a collage, or you like drawing?
Yeah, I like collage, I like drawing, I like mixed media. I am kind of old school and I have a typewriter. That's like the best way for me to write.
You're typing it.
Yeah, is actually typing it out on typewriter. I mean, everyone's got their own style.
And you make a series of them. So it's not like you just do one and...
Yeah, I kind of have a series like for my facts, advice, and things to think about. So I'm working on my 4th one of those.
And it's all just personal preference, like moods that you're feeling, messages you might want to get out. This is, like you said, it's a very individual, personal, customized books.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, like, I've had poetry that I've wanted to publish, and I'm not going to wait for someone else to go, oh, these are amazing. I'll get it out there myself.
Okay. And do you sell them, or do you give them? How does this work?
Kind of a combination. I mean, like, when things like Zine Fest roll around, that's a good place to sell them. Or, like, sometimes my small ones, the facts, advice, and things to think about, like, I'll keep that as, like, a business card sometimes. And I'll just give that to someone that I meet that I'm like, hey, yeah, here's my little thing. This has my name on it. And, like, this is a good way to get to know me versus, like, a business card,
I love that.
Yeah.
And do artists who make or create zines, do they trade? Is this a thing that can be traded?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's definitely on the table trading.
Okay.
'Cause, I mean, a lot of us like don't have money. That's why we're making cheap things. That's why we're doing it ourselves.
Yes.
Trades are not unheard of.
Okay.
For sure, within the zine community.
I apologize. I don't have one to trade with you right now.
Oh, well, see, and I almost brought you a Punks and Their Cats, but I didn't, so we don't have to worry about trading.
Okay, good. Maybe next time, because this might happen again.
Yeah.
Since this is a podcast about history and or Memphis or both,
Yes.
do you happen to know any of the history of zine? Like, why did this even happen? I get the feeling from what you've been saying is that it is self-expression and being able to get your poetry or your work out there without having to wait for a publisher. But where do you think that all even started?
Zines like in the world or zines in Memphis?
Anywhere.
Yeah,
okay,
I guess so.
If you know of anything in the world, because like I said, there's a lot of people that still are kind of unaware of what the zine is. So it's kind of interesting to hear.
So this is the part I was nervous about. That's why I did some research.
Oh, awesome.
I found a really great article on Mental Floss about zines, brief history of zines. And they're saying that the first zine is often traced back to the 1930s in an effort by the Science Correspondence Club in Chicago. And so since then, the zines that we're more, I guess, aware of, like, that all happened in the 1970s, like fanzines and mini zines.
Like when you look up at old zines, that's what you're going to look into, or the 70s?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like where people like us are getting their zine references from, because that's like the punk community. That's back in the day, like when people wanted to write about a show or get the word out, it was actually written on paper and distributed, versus like today it's like, I'm going to make a Facebook event. You know, so like back then it was like they're interviewing their friends, they're doodling weird doodles. It was like really rooted in the punk DIY scenes in like London, New York, LA. So those are the kind of zines that we kind of think of. Yeah. Or also like in the 1990s there was a resurgence with like the Riot Girl movement.
Oh, so do you know about that?
Yeah, I mean, so basically it was like fans like Bikini Kill or Bratmobile or Slater Kinney really pushing the notion of like having your own voice and feminism and getting your voice out there. And so like a lot of them had their own zines and were just really all about like getting that out there. And
for awareness.
Yeah, awareness and empowerment.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
And that was in the 70s?
That was in the 90s.
Oh, in the 90s.
But yeah, I think mostly the zines that we're all kind of like familiar with is in the 70s, but it can be traced back as far as like the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
Is that something that's debatable, maybe?
I think so. Okay. I mean, but like what we're talking about is like the 70s when the printer copier became available to the masses. And so that was like what made it super easy for anyone to just go and make like 100 copies of whatever they were working on.
And back then, were they selling them, or was it just to get words out?
I mean, I think so.
Okay. Where can you find these? Like here in Memphis or in general, where can people find these?
Last I knew, MCA was working on a zine library.
Oh, no.
But they're closing.
Yes, they know.
So,
no.
I mean, hopefully other universities in the Memphis area will have their own zine libraries. I mean, more
like
and more
if I were to
colleges.
go on campus somewhere, or
yeah, I mean that's definitely something that
could happen.
Okay.
Could
I know
for
sure.
And find
some
for sale.
Definitely. I don't know like how big some of the record stores here are into like local zines, but there's definitely, you know, like mainstream zines like Maximum Rock and Roll or Razor Cake that would probably be available at, you know, record store.
Okay. So there are some well-known zines.
Yeah, for sure. Like music zines. I think that's really where a lot of it kind of comes from, because there's so many consumers of music, there's so many musicians, there's so many people that love music. But then also Zine Fest is a really good yearly way to like really see what's out there in our community.
And Zine Fest is here in Memphis. And go ahead and tell us more about that.
So the first Zine Fest, I think, was about 4 years ago. This is going to be our fourth one.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
I was thinking it started last year.
No.
Oh,
So
okay.
this will be our fourth one. And when we first started it, it was kind of me just like nagging Mary Jo to like, please let this happen. Like,
Who's
please
Mary
just
Jo?
give me a chance. She works with Crosstown Arts. I don't know like exactly what her label is, but
Okay.
she was kind of like the foot in the door, like that enabled the Zine Fest idea to really have this this venue. Because I mean, I could have done it by myself, but it would have been, you know, in someone's house or something like that. But Crosstown Arts like really enabled me to work with Story Booth and like have that youth workshop and really kind of get the word out. And we had so much great press the first year, and I think it's just been getting better and better.
Yeah, I noticed there were a lot of young students there with their own zines. I thought that was really cute.
Yeah, it's precious. And they're so cool. I mean, they make the coolest stuff. And I think that's the magic about zines is like, it can really be about anything.
Yeah. I'm going to grab one and I'll make sure to read it for this podcast so people can kind of have, unless you have a sample one with you.
I don't. I'm sorry. I'm a little
That's
ill-prepared.
okay. Oh, same here. So this year's Zine Fest will be at Crosstown Arts, which is where we are currently.
Yes. So we're in the Crosstown Concourse right now, and we're going to have the community zine making workshop down there in the central atrium.
Okay.
So like as soon as you walk in the doors, it's going to be community zine making workshop.
People can get their hands in and learn how to make a zine.
Yes. In the central atrium on July 14th from 1 to 4 p.m. And that's a completely free workshop. We'll have everything that you need to get started on making your own zine. And usually people leave, you know, with maybe like halfway done or so. And like when I first got a zine or made a zine, my friend and I actually found this book, which I researched again.
Oh, awesome.
It's called Zine, the Do-It-Yourself Guide to Zines. We found this in the library, and we were like, oh my God, these are so cool. And so we went home and made our very first zine within
This is where it started
24
for you.
hours. Yeah, and I think we were in high school or so. And we were really into it. We were hustling. We were like trying to sell them to everyone, and we even got in trouble with the people, like the administration at school.
Because you were selling on the property?
Because we were selling zines on the property. And instead of being like, oh, wow, this is a great creative thing, they were like, you need to sell these like across the street.
So did you start selling them across the street?
No, we just went more and more underground. Oh, geez. But that's a good book for anyone who's interested in getting started.
What did inspire you to get started? I mean, was it the music scene of the 70s you said that got you?
No, I mean, it was really coming across that book in the library. And so from there... No. This was in Minnesota.
In Minnesota, okay.
Yeah. It was really just that book. And we did, like, all kinds of weird things, like an advice section or just writing about our favorite band or just weird things. Whatever we could do to fill those pages.
Do you have a copy of your first zine?
I might have the hard copy, but I'm pretty sure I threw all the other ones away because I was like, oh God, this is embarrassing.
So there's no chance that we could put those on our show notes?
I mean, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but
Maybe
I'd rather give you new material.
Something to inspire the newbies?
I'll think about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of show notes for this episode will be memphistypehistory.com/zine. So go there and check out some samples of what zines could look like and information on this next Zine Fest that'll be here that you'll want to go to because you get to make your own zine.
Oh, okay. And so the actual Zine Fest is going to be actually up here, right across the way. I think the name for it is the Theater Stairs. It's on the second floor where all those like bright orange padded Velcro seats are.
Oh,
and there's like
where
a
that
library.
little library is.
Yeah. And so that's where we're actually going to have Zine Fest. And that's going to be July 20th on Friday, July 20th from 4 to 7 p.m. And that's absolutely free. And you do need to sign up, but we usually have about, 15 or so tables for people. And there is no vendor fee.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But you get to look around, shop for some zines from the artists around Memphis. Mm-hmm. And the people that participate, are They look like students that I'm assuming are from Memphis, or
Well, so we do a youth workshop the previous week, and so
Okay.
a lot of them also are vendors at Zine Fest.
Okay.
So I mean, those are like middle school to high school youth, and then also like people within the community from all age ranges.
okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And well, thanks for starting that
Yeah,
from 4 years ago.
yeah.
Are your students that you're teaching art for now probably going to show up?
I hope so. I have been thinking about doing a private art lesson of zine making. I know one of my students, that's actually how we met. He participated in Zine Fest. So, I mean, I definitely love spreading the knowledge. So I might
Yeah.
introduce that as one of our art lessons.
I love that. Yeah, I love that you've kept this art form as a personal outlet for yourself. And you said you started in Minnesota. Like, how many years ago was that?
Oh geez. I mean, it was maybe like 10 years ago,
Really?
maybe even more. Yeah,
And
because I
so-
was in high school.
When you first came into Memphis, did you notice anybody doing this?
No, not at all.
Really?
No.
You kept at it.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you ever run into somebody else who was doing it?
No,
This is
no,
amazing.
not really. I mean, there was one time that I'm thinking of where I was at Kinko's and I was doing copies of my zine, and a girl came over and she was like, "Are you making a zine?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm working on this zine." Blah blah blah.
And this
she
has
was
been a
like-
while since you've been in Memphis, or?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's probably been a couple years. And at that point, she was like, "Wow, I've never seen anyone else making a zine here. I make zines
Wow.
too." And so it was like this really cool, magical moment of like two zinesters meeting at the copy place. And so yeah, we immediately bonded, and we did zine trades, and
Is she still
Yeah.
here now?
I think she's teaching in another state.
Oh, okay.
You know, I did give some of her zines out. We usually have a free box at Zine Fest. So like people who maybe from other states or other countries want to like be a part of Zine Fest but can't be there to vend, I'll usually ask for donations so that people can like come and, you know, if they don't have money to spend, they can at least take a zine out of the free box. So
That's really great.
yeah.
So I feel like you've really helped contribute the zine scene in Memphis, then.
I like to think so.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're documenting this.
Yeah.
So over time, this is catching on. Like, it's kind of cool for me to, even though I just discovered it in Memphis and learned about it here, to think that this is an art form that has been going on since at least 70s, possibly even the 30s. That people are saying that this is started, and so it's nice just to think. Obviously, it's going to continue. Like it's not going to stop.
Yeah, I think there were kind of some concerns about, you know, is DIY dead? But I think people like in our generation, we were kind of the last generation to grow up without the internet. So we had childhoods that were like
Yeah.
really all about our imagination and like, you know, away from computers and that whole aspect of like print.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to die just because I think it's a wonderful thing. And there's always going to be someone that will appreciate that and want to
Yeah.
carry that on. I mean, will it continue in the same sense of like cut and pasting and collaging and mixed media? I don't know.
Because you said people are already not doing that. They're
Yeah.
using computers to create the zines
Right,
now.
yeah.
And not
But-
necessarily a bad thing, but it would be
Right.
sad if everyone does go to that
Right.
at
Yeah.
some point.
But I don't
Yeah.
think it'll die.
And I think too, the fact that you mentioned that we were this generation with no computers
Yeah.
and everything, I think it helps that you are introducing this to a young, youthful crowd because they are doing this hands-on.
Right.
And I think that's a great way to pass this over
Yeah. It was
to the future.
It was actually really funny because in the space that was Story Booth, there were actual typewriters. And so it was really funny
Oh.
seeing these kids
Were they wondering what
try
that
and
was?
type out a sentence. And they're like, dang it. Just like writing the same sentence over and over. Yeah, and it was just funny, you know, because Mary Jo's like a generation or so above me. And she was like, yeah, imagine having to do that like for a college paper. And we were just like, no.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was one of the last people I know that took a class in typing with typewriters.
Oh,
before.
Lord. Yeah. No.
So, I didn't mind it. It even had the erasable tape, so I could erase what I typed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's not that bad.
That was pretty high-end back then.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, thank you so much, Erica. Is there anything else that you wanted to add or share?
Come to Zine Fest.
Yes, here in
Yeah.
Crosstown.
Mm-hmm.
On, say dates again.
I believe it's July 20th,
No, you're
Friday,
kidding.
July 20th from 4 to 7 p.m.
And we'll make sure to update on our show notes in case anything changes. So
Yes, and the Community Zine Workshop, again, is from 1 to 4 on July 14th.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so show notes are memphistypehistory.com/zine. All right, you've been listening to Memphis Type History, the podcast.
We like your type.
You've been listening to Memphis Type History, the podcast. It would mean so much to us if you head over to iTunes and give us a rating and review. Be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode.
Want to be part of Memphis Type History and get behind the scenes content, merch, and more? Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Memphis Type History. That's Patreon, spelled patreon.com/Memphis Type History.
Find more Memphis Type History on our blog at memphistypehistory.com, on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest as Memphis Type History, and on Twitter at Memphis Type.